Blooped with Vilas and Vanessa and our very special guest, De'Anna Nunez. Blooped is a podcast about quitting, leaving, getting away from high control environments, situations, marriages, politics, religions, thought processes. So, yeah, and it's just a conversation with us. We're not real formal over here. We just like talking about things and going deep on different topics that hopefully they know they've helped us and hopefully help you guys. So I want to say hi, Vilas.
Hi. Welcome, De'Anna. It's a pleasure to have you. I'm excited about this conversation.
Me too. Thanks for having me. This is going to be good. I think it's, I didn't realize it was, I loved your umbrella of terms of any high control situation. That's so true. Because we don't realize we have choices. So to give people choices through this conversation would be great.
Yeah, definitely. So many people leave these high control situations and it's has violated some part of their lives, their psyche, their heart, their spirit, their soul, their money, whatever it is. And it's so hard to know how to navigate the after. And Vilas and I have been navigating this. You know, we were both in the Hare Krishna movement and left. We didn't join on our own free will. Our parents joined, then we left on our own free will. Our situations were different in how we blooped. But blooped implies that we have a choice, that we take like our power back and we can go do whatever the hell we want with our lives and our minds. So that's why I just thought it'd be so perfect to have you on. You do literally help people free their minds.
Yes.
As a hypnotist.
I can think of how I blooped in probably like when I was 14 and sort of forced to go to church. I was out smoking in the not bleachers, but smoking in the orange groves. I would also smoke under the bleachers in high school, but smoking in the orange groves outside of the church parking lot. I was like rebel from the beginning.
Yeah.
That's why smoking under the bleachers is attractive, because it just definitely paints that rebel, you know, like, I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to take it.
Yeah. That would be when I was ditching PE. And then I turned into a runner, which is really hilarious. Like, how do you go from ditching PE every day and literally flunking PE in high school?
Because it was your choice.
A marathon runner.
Because it was your choice. You made the choice, and it's easier to commit to personal choices than it is to indoctrination and dogma.
True that.
And I could see why you'd be a runner. I mean, that's like the ultimate like body freedom, right? You can just run away from any situation.
It's the ultimate rebellion.
Yeah.
It is. To me, I thought of it as, how can I take rebellion and turn it on its ear to where it's actually healthy and beneficial to me? Because I found lots of ways of being rebellious that were self-destructive. So at one point or another, where I decided to maybe make some changes, so I wasn't shooting myself in the foot, I learned that my rebellion needed a new energy. So hence the running was born.
I love that. And then when did you get into hypnosis?
So I would say that would be probably my first rebellion was hypnosis. So I first learned about hypnosis at 24. I was in a relationship that I learned a lot from. At 19, I ran off and got married, and probably like 8 or 9 screwdrivers back, I said I do. At an altar with an old man that had barely any teeth. And
wait, you married an old man with barely any teeth?
No, the man that married us was an old man with no teeth. That's all I remember. I was so drunk before, while saying I do. I do remember his face with no teeth. But yeah, so I was in a relationship that wasn't going so well, and I think that piece of it is important because it's what led me to hypnosis. Is to just, when we have these contrasts in our life, one thing, deep darkness leads us to the light, and it just, sometimes it just feels so wrong that you're looking for, how can I get out of this? How can I find some kind of light in my life out of this darkness? And so to me, my high school rebellious years, and then rolling into running off and getting married. And my son was that thing. I had a son at 20 years old, and I do think that's very young to have a child. But I can't regret it because he's amazing. And his life made me want to change my life. And so I started to just go on a path to figure out my mind, because I just felt like I had all these kind of self-destructive thoughts that would take me down either rabbit holes or destructive actions, that I knew I was better than that. I just knew that I had more to offer than some of my impulsive behaviors of rebellion. So I felt like hypnosis could be a thing that could change my thoughts. That was really how it started. And then I saw how powerful it was. And I thought, okay, yeah, I definitely need to know more about this so that I can use it to heal myself. So I entered into hypnotherapy school and became a clinical hypnotherapist. And it changed my life. And it has continued to change my life. Even as fresh as last night at 3 a.m, I was listening to a hypnosis audio and I just was bawling my eyes out. And I go, oh, I thought to myself, okay, yeah, I had woken up last night and I'm like, why am I awake right now? Okay, well, I might as well listen to hypnosis audio. So knowing that I was going to do this here with you guys today, I popped in my audio. That's my own voice. And the title is Aloha Ola. It is the principles of Ho'oponopono, which is please forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you. I love you. So I was listening to that and all of a sudden my dad popped into my mind and I just started bawling. And I was like, oh, there's grief. Okay. There's more.
Yeah.
Oh no, what's happening?
You're getting a little every now and then. The internet, it looks like you're kind of coming in and out, like almost about to freeze, but we've been able to hear you the whole time. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
So
it's okay.
So that's what led me to hypnosis, was just really wanting to manage my own thoughts better so they could be, productive.
That's a pretty awesome use of hypnosis. I never thought about it that way. Have you ever done hypnosis, Vilas?
No, I considered it in my early 20s to try and really just erase my childhood, but opted not to do that because that seems a little volatile and extra.
Well, I love that you said that, though, because 2 people do come to me for that kind of thing. And I'm nodding my head, not to say, yes, that's what you can do. And that's what you should do. Not at all. But I'm nodding my head going, yeah, I've heard that many times where people go, can you just get rid of that? Can you just hypnotize it out of me? People tend to think in extremes when they have had something that has been such a conflict internally for them. And then they have fantasized that when they don't have that conflict, they'll be completely free and completely in an entirely different type of state of mind than they were. And what I have found is that instead of the black and white, it's actually shades of gray. There's like many shades of gray, of integration in between, so
yeah.
I bet you have experienced hypnosis.
Me?
Maybe not in Vilas.
Oh, Vilas, yeah.
In what way?
Just don't really realize that it's that. What we consider a hypnotic state is an alpha theta state. But hypnosis is using that state productively, because it happens to us all the time anyways. But a lot of times we're using that state of mind unproductively.
Well, I think one of the things that you said a long time ago that always stood with me is that we're always kind of hypnotizing ourselves with our own thoughts. And we grew up in an environment where we weren't allowed to watch television, and we had to listen to like the tapes. Remember Prabhupada singing the 4 a.m. songs? Like we were being hypnotized technically by the stuff that we did and the mantras and the singing. And even these like lectures, sometimes I just felt like, everybody in there was this glassy eyed, like turned into like a little zombie listening to this stuff over and over again. And the way you said that, that always stayed with me, that we're constantly being hypnotized kind of by something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm just thinking about you too. Like so cute little girls.
I want you to hear, Vilas, will you share? So like what you just said, De'Anna, was really interesting because, you had a kid at 20 and you got married. A few years before that, Vilas was forced into a marriage and at 16 chose to leave a marriage. So I don't know if you, Vilas, would you just
16.
give her a snapshot of your experience, just so we can just remind people like where the three of us actually are coming from.
Love
Yeah.
to hear it.
I was in I was basically trafficked to India by my mother and married off when I was 13 years old after a brutal rape that, of course, shamed them or whatever. And so I was married off at 13 and then ended up, he left, or he told me that we were splitting up. And I would have been maybe 15. I might have been, no, it was right before my 15th birthday. So it was early in, when I was 14. Anyway, so I was married to him for just a little over a year, and then I ended up basically homeless in India for a while, and then came back to the States when I was 16.
How did you get back there?
Proceeded to be homeless here. Well, my father gave me a plane ticket because I had ended up back at their house, but I wasn't willing to follow the regulations and rules that they laid out, which included no meat eating. And so they found out that I had a pepperoni pizza and kicked me out. So, because, people's indoctrination is so much more powerful than we give it credit for, because you're willing to do something that's so antithetical to life in the name of your beliefs, in the name of God, in the name of whatever.
Yeah.
And we forget that our focus should be, in creating this world, which we all have the power to do, to impact this world. Neglecting our children is one of the biggest sins. I'm going to call it a sin, since we're just going to call me having my velocity.
Isn't sin meaning like miss the mark? Like, to treat your children like that is severely missing the mark, which the mark would be love, right? According to like every religion. And to mistreat your children like that would definitely be considered missing the mark. Definitely.
Yeah, we did not get to experience love in the environment of the cult.
Mm-hmm.
So,
wow.
But Vanessa says that you have some interesting perspectives on the concept of forgiveness, which I have my own opinions about. But this is why we wanted to invite you, for all of us to have this discussion, because everybody has a different perspective, and I'm curious your thoughts. I'll just put mine out there on the table. I think forgiveness is gaslighting. I think it is an extra ask from someone who has already been harmed to then do one more thing. Go forgive this person who has caused you harm. I don't see it as a letting go, because letting go is actually easy. That's, you just have to process it or compartmentalize it or do the work, do the therapy, whatever the necessary thing is to allow it its own space. But forgiveness, I always feel is no, there's a lot of things that deserve forgiveness. Sure. That's fine. I forgive you for stepping on my toe accidentally. That's fine. But some of the harms that people do to us, they're not worthy of forgiveness. And I think to go around telling people in society that it's important for them to forgive is harmful. So that's my perspective.
No, and I appreciate you being, talking about it, Vilas, because I think there's a lot of people that that feel that way. Like, I'm not going to forgive this person. And you have a way of like being able to forgive and let go. And some people, I used to feel like I can forget, but I'm not going to forgive. And I had a really hard relationship with forgiveness because I thought that was giving the person, like, you know, like one of our, in particular, the main woman who raised me was not my mom, was an ashram teacher. And I did forgive her and I did let it go. And I can still think that she's one of the most terrible humans I've ever encountered. But I did forgive her because the question that popped into my mind was, for someone to behave like that, they must have endured 10 times the pain that I endured. Or that was my way of thinking about it. Like, to become that horrible.
Your empathy.
Yeah, to be that horrible, you have had to go through a lot. And then I pictured her as a little girl, and then I loved her, and then I forgave her. And so when I see her now, she won't make eye contact with me. She's just as rotten as you can get. But I totally, completely, 100% don't look at her as a cruel woman. I look at her and all I see now is a hurt kid and someone who had immense loss. And I'm like, I forgive you, because if you knew better, if you really understood the impact, you would not have behaved that way. And if you had grown up loving and being held and whatever, we'd have a very different relationship, because her daughters are some of the most amazing women I know. So it's kind of like, and I don't know, if someone like killed my kid, I don't know that I would be able to forgive, but I just am picked the worst thing that I experienced. Even the people that I've been sexually mistreated by, they're nothing to me. I don't even have to forgive. I'm like, that's not my problem. Your behavior is yours. So that was my relationship and how I mind meld myself around this stuff. So we all come from like really different experiences.
What I hear you saying is that you did extra work for her, and I find that to be sad.
I didn't do it for her. I did it. It comes super naturally to me to do that.
I don't mean as a gift for her, but as your own work. You went through extra hoops to try and help yourself understand what a horrible, evil person she was in order for you to. So what does that mean to you to forgive then? What does it mean?
It means to me is like understanding and radical acceptance. I have zero resistance to what happened. It happened. There's zero chance that anything could have actually been different when I fully, totally 100% accept who my parents are, accept my own nature, and accept what I think may have turned her into this person. But that's my natural that's how I personally process. And I know not a lot of people can do that. That comes very easy and natural to me. De'Anna, let's get you in.
That's why we're friends.
We have such different perspectives and ways of processing things.
I loved what you said. I think that not everybody wants to do that. You went ahead and did, and Vilas, you called it extra work. But I think, Vanessa, you appreciate doing that kind of work. If you called it that, I would call it growth. With yourself. It's like the way that you process. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's just natural. It's not something someone taught me. It is literally how I remember at 8 or 10 years old, Moksharupa, who was one of our teachers, she had a slap happy hand. Man, she just like whipped that thing around. And I remember thinking, oh, like, I don't have to be even angry about this, because karma is a bitch. They taught us all about karma. And I just thought, I'm not going to stay angry at her, because this is going to come back to her and whatever. So I just, at 10, I was like, I don't care what she does to me.
The most ironic part of religious abuse is it's so hypocritical. It's like, hello, the things that they do to abuse are the exact things they're teaching. But wow, for you to have that kind of awareness at that age, it's pretty incredible.
I thought it was funny. I was like, oh, okay, well, and she did. I mean, she's had a horrible, horrifying life. I don't think that it was her karma necessarily that her daughter got killed in a car accident and that she was left not functioning. I don't think that that's not a one-to-one. That's something different, you know. I wouldn't say that she deserved any of that because her daughter was our friend. So I wouldn't say like her daughter deserved to die because she slapped me a bunch of times and made me feel like crap. That's not fair. But it also, when it happened, it did cross my mind, like, what was that? What is that? What is
As
that?
a child.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Anyways, how do you think about it separate from what we're sharing? Like, what's your, when we were talking, we were up till 1 a.m. talking with another girlfriend of ours, and you were talking about letting go and forgiveness. And I was like, that's so empowering. What is that?
So being that when I'm working with people in my office, I get people with so many different contexts of narratives and stories and things that they're holding on to. It became very apparent to me, both from my own experience of just really being in a tumultuous relationship with my mom. I felt like there were so many areas in my life that I could strive and overcome, but that relationship just always, it always gripped me. And I find myself habitized to anger, which I see that in my clients and my friends. Like, there's certain habits that you have of certain emotions that you go to. Maybe you go to depression, maybe you go to anger, maybe you go to sadness. For me, I go to anger, and I think it sort of matches my like energetic personality, because then when I can get angry about something, I can do something about it, right? It makes me feel like there's motion happening. But in that tumultuous relationship, I'd always feel this like sense of conflict. And when I chose to do the growth work on myself, which is just to kind of like figure out how am I going to forgive my mom for not being the mom that I wanted her to be, so that I feel like I can move on. And, things like this are, it depends on who you're talking to. You could be in social circles and they'll be like, just move on, just let it go. And many people will say that, just let it go. Or they'll say, I just let that go. But what I found out in doing hypnosis is that when a person is in that shifted state, outside of their cognitive analytical filter, all kinds of things come up that they have not let go of. Because now when they're in that state of hypnosis, they're actually feeling and actually not compartmentalizing. And there's a sense of freedom that comes up, and it comes up so easily. Whereas there's something that they have grappled over, and something that I grappled over. I'm human, just like the person I'm hypnotizing, I'm feeling just like they're feeling. And I recognize it, like, okay, this is something I need to go internal with. And so to be able to let go, I recognize that forgiveness was not, I need other options. I need other options here. And so I saw them as three things. It could be forgiveness, acceptance, or surrender. And all three of those are what letting go means. And people don't just let go when they say they have. Not on a subconscious level, they don't. So they tend to, in my experience, create some kind of coping mechanism so that they don't have to let go, or avoidance, which really kind of steals from your own self-leadership. Like, you can't really be assertive if you also have learned to be avoidant. You can do two things at one time. We know that, but you want to practice beneficial habits that actually further you deeper into who you want to be. And when you mentioned radical acceptance, that is, you're not forgiving. You're not saying that what that person did was okay, or their cruelty or any of that is that they're let off the hook in some way. But you say, I'm going to fully accept that this happened and this is a thing and I'm free from it.
Do you think that what you're saying, and what the three of us, again, have very different experiences with this, but you're talking about changing what forgiveness means, at least how like Christian or like religious people say it, right, Vilas? Because Vilas, you're really an advocate for people who've been deeply pained and hurt. And now you're saying, oh, I'm just going to forgive them and be like, it's not a big deal, whatever. And now the victim has to like deal with all the heavy emotions, which one of the things I like, Vilas, you brought something up I thought was really interesting. And you said that it was religion's way, and I just said it, but will you say it the way you say it? Like,
Well,
Just to
there is
get
a
clear
huge
what you think of it as.
in Christianity. Well, the definition of forgiveness is a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment, anger, or vengeance towards someone who has harmed you. So, in that way, we're all saying the same thing, but that definition means let it go. It's the same exact thing, just letting it go. And the letting go part I get, but forgiveness itself has become so ingrained in society's expectation from victims of anything, of everything. Oh, you should forgive that person. You should forgive that family member. You should forgive, 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 forgive. And it's and for a long time we've talked about let it go and have come around to stop telling trauma survivors to just let it go. Sure, you have to process it and you have to deal with it. You have to go do the therapies, whatever they are. And that's fine. I'm wholeheartedly for that. But the forgiveness itself, like it's very grounded in Christianity. Jesus forgave. It's just such a weird thing to ask of someone to do when a harm has come to them. It is a terrible thing to ask a victim, oh, I understand you're down, but could you just please let that person off the hook, the one who just harmed you? It's like, no, I'll process and let it go in my good old time. And that's fair. But I feel like the way that forgiveness has become so cliche and everything, it is grounded in religion and patriarchy. And how many times do you hear people asking men to forgive? It's always a woman thing. You're such a good woman if you can just forgive your husband, forgive your father, forgive your your creepy uncle that molested you. Like every woman has got to forgive. And it's like, no, I don't like that proposition. I'm not interested in that. Happy to let it go. And Nipana's here. By definition, I don't forgive because I acknowledge that there was harm and it was bad, but I don't want to expend my personal energy and time developing resentment, anger, or a desire for vengeance. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, I'm not going to give.
I think we're all in agreement with that. Yeah,
yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I've been told that my issue is terminology.
I was just going to suggest that because I want to say really quickly that I call it third level. There's first level, second level, and third level words. And the third level word is when a word loses its like nuanced depth, right? Just like the word integrity, authentic. I never use the word authentic. I think it's just such a stupid word at this point. What does that actually mean?
Well, it's been washed out.
Yeah. There's another one, a gratitude. I cannot stand, I don't ever tell people just be grateful. What does that even mean? I can say I'm appreciative or
I love the word gratitude.
See, but to your point exactly, I had a really hard time with gratitude because I was like, I'm not grateful for having Lyme. I'm not grateful, like fuck off. And so to your point, I think that sometimes it boils down to our relationship with a word and the way we understand it to mean and our relationship with how it's been used against us previously or the world or whatever. So
can we talk about what are the positive sides of not forgiving? And let me give you an example of this. When I have a client who was poorly treated and it's a male client. He was poorly treated by his boss, and to the point that he was bullied by his boss, and I don't want to give away his anonymity. Anyways, he was almost to the point where what he was doing in his life, as in this career, what used to be his dream. But this boss had bullied him so much that he ended up leaving entirely that career out of just the hurt and angst and anger that he experienced being, the employee of this boss. And so he ended up leaving and creating in a whole new career where he now helps, I would say, thousands to millions of people, whereas before it was a much smaller kind of way of living. Now he helps millions of thousands of people, thousands to millions of people. I don't know his exact. I know he's got over 1 million followers on Instagram, but he helps so many people. And it was his anger from that boss and his lack of being willing to forgive him that fueled him to be like, this is not right. And what he's doing now is a direct reflection of what he felt was not right then. And so he has this sense of justice. He has, so he productively used his anger. And now he probably doesn't give a shit about that guy at all. So I would say that he's healed from it, but the experience of it fueled him in a way that has now changed millions of lives. So sometimes when we don't forgive, but we use it, I think the point is to use it productively.
Well,
right?
that's what Vilas does. Yeah, she's our warrior goddess here. I mean, our warrior sister here, who literally has channeled this intense, like, anger into what do you do? Like, she's an advocate for banning child marriage in the U.S. And do you know that there's 32 or 33 or 34 states that still have laws? She's out here fighting for all these girls.
Yeah.
Love
it. I took the anger, which is the one that everybody always uses as the bad emotion. And I tried to understand how my anger helps me, how it actually makes me a better person, as opposed to, sad or, any other list of emotions that but I use my anger to propel my work, my passion, my whatever it is that I need to do to make a better world. And I've tried to find the acceptance of anger because society has really shamed women for being angry. And I'm like, fuck it. This is who I am. I am angry because bad things happen. I am going to use that anger to stop bad things from happening. Just to tie that in, I don't feel like I've ever benefited from forgiveness. There has been one single person in my life who has asked for forgiveness, and I went back and said, I want that friendship, and I'm going to honor this person and forgive them immediately. And I don't think it's a necessary emotion to expend for people that don't deserve it. Like, I'm just like, yeah, acceptance. Sure. I'm very accepting of who my parents are. I accept the reality of who my sister is. I accept the reality of my childhood, and acceptance I get. And understanding and acceptance are levels. Sometimes I want to understand, and sometimes it really doesn't matter to me if Lakshmi Moni had a shitty childhood. Fuck her. She harmed
fuck her,
so
but
many girls.
she did.
And you forgiving her for what she did to you, that's great. That's beautiful for you. And I honor you for that. If that's helpful to you. But
that doesn't by any means make what she did to me okay. And it doesn't mean that it makes any of the things that she did to the other girls okay by any means. Like, I will never have a relationship with her. I will never speak to her.
Which means that you can't accept the fact of the matter.
No, I do accept it, but I'm choosing. Yeah, no. I accept it fully. But I also, part of forgiveness doesn't mean now that I'm going to go have tea with someone. Like for me, it means I have a boundary and I am no longer ever going to put myself in that position, because that is, a snake is a snake.
So we have to find the delineation then of acceptance, where you accept that she did this. I do not accept that she did this. The reason why I don't accept it is because what we get used to, we accept, and what we accept turns into common practice. And I do not want to accept her actions. I don't want to accept her existence. Yes, her daughters are amazing, but I'm not going to be okay ever. I'm not going to accept that it's not okay. It's never going to be okay. I will never adjust myself to be all right or soft around the parts where she did what she did.
Yeah.
And so there's no, for me, I'm just like, fuck off. You don't deserve, she doesn't even deserve this much of my energy, this whatever 3 minutes of me talking about her, because I'm like, you were such a piece of shit, you know? And that's the part where I'm just like, I hope you die soon. Like, I don't care. I literally don't. People who hurt children, fuck off, drop dead. You know, I mean, that's just my, so, and it's not that I'm not capable of being gracious and flowery and forgiving and whatever. As a friend, I find myself to be an extremely forgiving person. Oh, you want to be late? Or you want to change the date? Or you want to do something different? Or you want to do this and I don't? That's fine. This is all like me being, I'm easygoing. I'm forgiving, you know, like I'm easy. But when it comes to harm, I think we have to come away from using that word and saying like, oh, you just have to forgive that person. No. I don't know. That's the part where I'm like, be careful, stay far away from that, because it can reharm when you try. Let's say you wanted to reconcile. Let's say it wasn't as bad as what she did, but like you just wanted to reconcile and you're like, I forgive you. You can be reharmed by that. You can go ahead, De'Anna.
I was going to say that what you had said boundaries. You said you learn to have hard boundaries. Mm-hmm. And so it's an entirely different scenario if you go, well, if she didn't do that, well, then it would be an entirely different scenario.
I was saying not her. I was saying like somebody else, not her. But boundaries. I have very, very, very strong boundaries around people who have caused harm. And I'm just like, so that's true. But a lot of victims, and I'm reluctant to use that word, but a lot of victims don't have that yet. And they're asked to forgive right off the bat, you know, like this, it's such a
we're all in agreement. Like that's, I love your ferociousness. I can feel it. It's palpable. And I think that it's, we live in a very, a world that, I mean, there's just, there's the flowery and there's the evil, not without, and I don't mean that in any kind of religious term. I just mean that exists. And so we need warriors like you. And I appreciate your perspective, but I also honor like what feels right for you, Vanessa. But I think what we're bringing up here is that there is more than one way. That's the whole point of this conversation. Yeah. And so that people can get something from it, you know, and feel like, I mean, so often I when I'm talking with clients, people that come into my office, they're like, am I doing this right? I feel like this isn't working. So am I doing it wrong? You know, and this conversation gives you many options of you can handle it this way or that way. I think that the use of the anger piece, I mean, to me, when I hear you, it's not just anger. Like you have a sense of purpose around this that is now a calling, and clearly, I mean, whether you call it that or not, it has risen to a whole new level of calling for you. And so it's not even just the anger anymore. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think use the word passionate because that is, it's held by society with a different regard, but only because we have opinions, negative opinions about anger. But I do want people to know that anger is a fair emotion. And so I just finished reading this book called We Don't Need to Forgive.
Wait, put it in the link or make sure you share that so we can just keep this very interesting dialogue going off.
I will. I'll share a link in the chat. But she talks about an example of a grandmother who, with her kids at their school, elementary school, and the kids, and somebody came in with a gun and shot it up and didn't kill her grandchildren, but she was seeing this therapist, and she's very angry. And everybody is like, oh, you got to forgive. You just have to forgive. Once you forgive, you'll let it go. And the therapist was like, no, talk to me about this anger. And what do you want to do? She goes, I want him dead. I want to see him dead. And the therapist says, you want to kill him? And she's like, I mean, I'm not that person. I'm not going to kill him, but yeah, I would love to see him dead. So they go into this fantasy, and like her ability to access her anger and walk through and deal with the scenario is completely antithetical to like therapists who are like, okay, we got to let go of the anger. The anger is not helpful. The anger. And I'm like, no, anger is the only reason I'm alive. If it wasn't for my anger, I would have curled up in my bed a long time ago and died of, crying myself to death. But that's not an option. I have to, pay bills and stuff. So I get up and I'm like, all right, how do I do this? How do I stay authentic to myself? That was for you.
No,
how do I stay real to myself and not shove it away, because I shoved away that anger for so long, and it just explodes after a while because you can't genuinely be yourself. And all of the things that survivors of every degree of everything have been asked to do, and I started picking apart, like, what are the things that have been most harmful to me? And one of the things was, I need to forgive, and I'm going to pass. I need to be less angry, pass. So like you looked at all of those emotions, and I'm like, which one of these is serving me and which one is not? And I found the ones that everybody thought was toxic to be the most helpful for me. And I found the ones that everybody thinks are the most helpful to be the most invasive and an extra ask. No, I don't want to do it.
Well, yeah. And I think that's really, I think that, again, everybody has a different personality, different chemistry, different experience, different relationship with how we process things. So to blanket across the board and say, oh, just forgive, I do think it's an irresponsible thing to say. I don't agree with that. I do remember a time when I did not forgive, and I was very angry, and I was like, fuck off and all the things. And then things changed for me. But I think that there are so many people out there who've gone through really horrible things that are on either side of this concept. You remember those, De'Anna, these guys are local to San Diego, but it's Tariq Kamisa and what was the other guy's name? Anyways, Tariq's father, Azim, what was it? Somebody's son killed somebody's grandson, and then the dad and the grandfather got together, and I think it was the grandfather, the perpetrator, the dad forgave the grandfather and the whole situation. And it became this movement of nonviolent communication and forgiveness. And it literally turned in a tragic situation into this beautiful calling that has really influenced people across from relationships to corporate situations. Kind of like you know, Vilas, turning this very tragic thing that happened to you into now fiercely protecting girls across, you know, at least in the US right now and potentially across the world. So it's just interesting how complex these things are, our relationship to language, our relationship to the religion that we first heard the word forgiveness in, our own constitution. So I do agree that just to say forgiveness across the board is really not accurate. De'Anna, what would you chime in on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love that you brought it to our attention right off the bat, to kind of frame it that way. I don't think that that's at all what we were saying that you should do, right? And the purpose of this. So, but I think one of the things that I hear in your case, Vilas, and other people that have felt that sense of anger or that sense of justice, that, you know, they have a right to be upset. If you have to have the other part, the awareness part is everything. Because if you don't have the awareness of how to use that productively, then it will eat you up inside, create bitterness, create resentment, create all the stuff. I think about all the different stories that I hear. The apple pie story comes to mind with my mom. She was dying of obesity complications. And when I said to her in the hospital, how come you're not eating the healthy stuff on your plate? And she goes, De'Anna, when you haven't had sex in 27 years, apple pie tastes really good. And she said it with anger. She said it like, rawr. She yelled it at me. When you haven't had sex in 27 years. And so in that case, like, why hadn't she had sex in 27 years? Why was she so angry about that? Certainly that's her work to do. And that it can shift into bitterness. It can shift, you know, this, what we're holding because we're not letting go, it can implode on us, inside of us. So what we're seeing as a incredible testimony to how to use anger productively would be how you have used it, Vilas, and how the other people that you talked about that came to forgiveness in a whole other way. But I think that the beauty of it is it's not just one way. Like, yeah, just forgive that person. There's so many nuances to it. And to be able to have the emotional intelligence to explore all these feelings is what I think is the key.
Yeah, I think so too. And I was just thinking, if Lakshmi Moni had come up to me and said, hey, will you forgive me? I probably would have slapped a bitch. Like, no, I'm not going to forgive you. That's not something that you get to ask me. Like, you have destroyed.
But then what is it for then? So Nipana makes a good point. Like, let's say she gets into an accident and she's injured and there's no other human involved. What is there to forgive? Like, there's nobody to forgive. She's still going to be angry and hurt and emotional.
She might have to forgive herself, right? Which, to say to herself, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I put, like, if she's blaming herself, which a lot of people do in those kind of situations, like, if I understand that I was tired that day, and I understand that maybe I was distracted, and I understand that I accidentally pushed the gas pedal instead of the brake because I just dropped something and I was trying, like, whatever, right? So to me, it seems like the precipice or the thing that comes right after that is like understanding and acceptance for self and the situation. And then you can go, oh, okay, I didn't mean to do that on purpose. I didn't, to myself. I don't know if that makes sense.
So someone named Cole Deal, who is in the chat box for the first time, says, forgiving others can be extremely difficult, but I think people learning to forgive themselves is the hardest and more important, in my opinion, part.
Completely agree, Cole.
Yeah.
Like, we're just saying, yeah.
This is where the subconscious mind comes in my opinion.
This is where what? Say that again.
The subconscious mind work comes in, because you can just go round and round and round with that in your head, trying to figure it out, trying to fix it, trying to let it go. But man, either maybe doing some actionable healing. I know all my running for years was so much letting go of things that I was mad at myself about. And so you put your body to action, your body's holding all that stress, energy, the weight of the world that we hold for ourselves, to be able to release that. You can do that in so many different ways that are healthy outlets. It could be sports, hobbies, art. There's so many expressions of it. Or also, doing work like breath work or therapy or hypnotherapy, where it's directly connected to the subconscious. It's a much faster release than trying to cognitively, go round and round with yourself about. So I think it needs to become a practice. So when you said, Cole, that it's hardest, well, this is why you got to have a practice. I shared at the top of the hour that I was laying in my bed crying at 3 a.m. Maybe you're not going to do that. Maybe somebody else is, and that's a healthy practice for them. Every time I listen to hypnosis, I get something different out of it. But having some kind of practice so that you aren't going to unhealthy coping habits is something that's going to improve your own relationship with yourself.
So maybe forgiveness is a lot less. Maybe we need to come up, or can come up, not right now, but like this is an evolving emotion in humans because we're becoming more emotionally aware and in tune and have a new language around some of these things that we've been feeling. So maybe it's more about whatever. It's like, it's less about, oh shit, I had a thought and it flew away. So I have to forgive myself for that. Anyways, maybe it's just looking for. Thank you. Maybe it's coming up. Thank you. Maybe coming up.
Soft she was when she said that.
No, but so this is the thing. Like I feel as a friend in my world, I feel like I'm a very forgiving person because. Not in a way where if somebody commits an offense and then I have to actively forgive them, but I feel when somebody does harm, it is on them to repair it. It is not for me to forgive. I have to repair me. I have to figure out me. I have to heal my damage, put balm on my wounds, but I don't need to worry about them. That's done. Not my business, not my problem, not my space. And so I'm like, okay, you did a bad thing. You're going to need to go and do whatever it is that you need to do for that, whether you need to take action for that forgiveness or whether you even care to be forgiven. That's on you. Go earn it or not, or whatever. That's your life. I don't need to voluntarily expend any energy, as Nipana was saying earlier. Like I don't need to take extra care to release that other person because they're a non-entity for me. It's done. I still have to repair myself. That's a separate thing. So because I'm thinking about this and I'm like, do I just not have the capacity to forgive? And I'm like, I forgive people all the time around me. I forgive my children over and over and over again for letting me down. And so it's not, and I will forgive them every day for everything. So it's not that I'm incapable of forgiving, but I forgive my children because I really care about them and I really want my relationship under any circumstances with them to be good. Whereas other people, I'm like, wow, you did a really bad thing. I'm not interested in knowing you. You don't exist in my life anymore. Go fuck off. No, I don't forgive you. What? I don't even know your name anymore. What? Who are you? So it's kind of like I don't actually give it that much energy is more because even in this conversation, I'm like, am I just incapable of forgiveness? And then I had to do the math. But no, I really feel like it's more of a, for instance, in compiling some names for my book, there was a name of the perpetrator on the list. And I'm like, no, we don't put perpetrators. We say the name of the survivor. We can name the perpetrator later on, but they don't get to be in the title, in the highlighted part. And it's these very subtle, nuanced things that start to allow survivors to feel seen and not asked a little extra. Well, why didn't you report it? Well, why didn't you tell people for so long? Well, what were you wearing? Well, have you forgiven yet? Well, it's always an extra ask for the survivor. And it's never you don't have to do anything. You just have to heal yourself.
I love what you're saying, Vilas, because I think there's a ton of validity to that. What I want to kind of interject here right now is to say, I'm feeling like I'm tuning in better to where you're coming from. I just looked up the etymology of forgiveness, and one of the pieces, historically it's saying it literally means to give up completely or to give away one's desire to punish. And in some ways, I can see now why that would be so disempowering. And so I believe words have energy. You guys know me, I'm a nerd. I think that letters have specific energy. And when we put them together, there's literally something that happens. And so the word forgiveness carries an assumption or a proposition that we are going to give up, not surrender, but be defeated by something. And by saying, I forgive you, it's saying, I agree that you fucked me up. And I'm defeated. And I can see the defeatedness in the idea of forgiving in one context. So I really actually hear you now. I'm not going to even fight that because I totally understand, because I do believe words carry energy. So for something to be like, I forgive you means that you should not have any consequence for what you did. I'm going to give up and surrender to the fact that you just raped me and I'm just going to give up. Like, that's fucked up. That's not the association I technically have with forgiveness. And I think some people who are kind of pushing back on that don't have that. But that is interesting to say, like, I understand where you're coming from better right now.
Okay. That's where, and I'm a word origin nerd too. Like, I don't ever look up the word origin of the word nice, because I used to be called nice all the time. And then I figured out that it just means sucker, which is true. But they're like, oh, you're so nice. And I'm like, thanks. I don't think that's a compliment. But De'Anna, tell us more, because you were
sorry,
reaction to what Vanessa said.
I don't know where we were, but I'm loving this conversation. It's interesting because the heart of the matter always comes back to you, right? I think of this question very profoundly, and I asked myself all the time about 5 years ago, and I've been doing it ever since. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? And I ask all my clients that, who do you want to be? And you come back to this grounded space of who you're trying to be in the world. And you'll notice that if you kind of use some words, the power of words, to identify some of your attributes, what you value as who you are. And I would invite anyone here that's listening or watching to do that with themselves, to use words to identify who you want to be in the world and which ones are already who you are. They're not who you're becoming, but they're truths. They're an anchor that you can anchor yourself into. And that to me is a home plate. Like, you always come back to that place based on your then experiences in the world. You can respond to your behavior in alignment with who you want to be. So sometimes we get so reactive and it's unnecessary. And so you're kind of missing a beat there. It's like, if you ask yourself first, who do I want to be in this situation? Then you're going to have a better response that is aligned with you. So what I'm hearing is that you want to be a passionate person. So anger fits very well into your heart-centered self. You're like, I have a purpose for anger, and I'm going to use it appropriately. That's what I hear you saying. I hear Vanessa saying, I'm a compassionate person, and so I'm going to extend grace where I feel like that's a part of me and I'm going to extend it out. Doesn't mean that I'm going to put myself back in that situation or that person is free of the wrongdoing, but I'm going to extend compassion.
Well, there's another part to what you're saying. I agree with that, but there's another part that I have not said out loud. And it's, I don't have time for this shit. That's how I feel. I don't have time for this bullshit. I'm just here to fucking play. Literally, that's what I'm here for. And all this crap and all these idiots who are misbehaving and hurting people and fucking around, go fuck off. I want to play. I want to explore. I want to have fun. That's literally what I'm here for. And I remember as a kid just going out to the playground after something horrible would happen. And I'd just be like, fuck you guys, I'm going to go play. You know, so I'm compassionate, but that's a strategy to get me back to the place where I just want to play. I really don't have time for this. And I've been through a lot of crap. So I've learned how to kind of fast track my like, fuck off. With I forgive you, get out of my face. You know, it's almost a little bit more like
but that doesn't feel, I have
better things to do.
It doesn't feel genuine.
It's very genuine for me. Like I've gone there. I've done 30 years or 20 years of EMDR and all the things.
No, I mean,
as a point of like,
I mean, the part where you're like, I forgive you, get out of my face. It's like, wait, but is it that easy? It's just sometimes so easy just to say, I forgive you and to actually forgive.
It's not really like, I don't even think at some point, it's not even, I don't feel like I even have to forgive people. At some point, I'm at that point in my life where I'm like, fuck off. Like, no, it's not even something, you did something stupid. That's on you. That's your misbehavior. That's your problem. It isn't mine. I'm not going to take it on. And I don't actually care. I have people who are amazing that I'm going to go laugh with and dance with and build things cool, like cool things in life. And you can either show up. I'm not taking any responsibility for anybody's bullshit. Like, I'm not the problem. If someone is disrespectful, that's their problem. I don't have, I work in a kind of a, sometimes I have these toxic moments in different areas of my life. And I'm literally at that point where I'm like, this is like a fly on my wall. Like, no.
Right. I mean, I got there a long time ago and I was just like, not my circus, not my monkeys, not doing it. And I'm not
gonna, combination. Yeah. Like compassion for all these different things that we evolved to because it's been so dark, because it's been so crazy. And so you get to the point where you are you, I'm me, and we're kind of just like, what are the strategies that are going to help us continue to right whatever like injustice and also be happy?
Yeah.
De'Anna.
To me, it just comes back to using it purposefully, you know, using whatever emotion, use it purposefully. Otherwise, you just become part of the hurt people, right? So if your reaction and your fuck offness, I like saying that word, the F word in as adjectives. I tend to use it in more of a positive way. And I don't say fuck off to people. I've never once said it to my husband in 29 years. So it's not like it doesn't fly off my mouth like that. Nor do I say the word bitch. It's kind of interesting. And I'm no goody goody, you guys. But those two words, I just don't say that like to people because who I want to be is just different. So I might show you that in a different way without having to say the words, but having a purposeful pathway for moving forward, because I think that it's the crux, right? For when something happens and we get stuck around that trauma or that conflict, carrying it with us is the crux of the situation. And so we have a choice. We have a choice what we're going to do with that emotion. And so using it purposefully, whether it's anger, whether it's joy, whether it's learning stronger boundaries, and maybe you are letting it go, but you never forget it because you don't ever want to be in that situation again. And so you have stronger boundaries there. Or you decide you're going to be an advocate for all the people that have wronged you in that way or in that experience. So now you're using it purposefully. And so I think it's still moving forward, right? There's a process of moving forward. And it doesn't have to be in forgiveness the way that society has pushed forgiveness. and religion.
Yeah. How would you say for someone who, because a lot of the folks that are our friends and people that eventually this will get out to are people who've left religion. And so there's an existential forgiveness of God, right? What are your thoughts on that kind of forgiveness?
What does that mean? Existential forgiveness of God. What do you mean by that?
To forgive your creator. Like if people really buy into the idea of God, that's pretty deep to say, like, I don't forgive God. I've heard a lot of people say that. I've said that at actually points in my life where I'm like, I don't actually forgive God. Not saying that right now, but I've been there. And so people whose lives have been kind of desecrated by this concept of God, there's a forgiveness, there's a reconciliation with God that I think is really interesting, because you could technically say that God ruined their lives, God, whatever. And I've heard it a lot.
God let this happen.
Yeah.
That's what God does.
What is God do?
That's
Destruction.
That's a whole different podcast topic.
No, but this is about forgiveness, right? This is about the idea, this existential, like, forgiveness, like, that's a big deal for people who are very locked into God as their creator. Right?
Yeah. So I guess that's the question for somebody who still needs to reconcile the existence of God, even though they recognize that the existence of God has caused them harm. As opposed to
a lot of the world. That's a lot of the world, and
I know.
People
as
recovering from religion.
Yeah, as opposed to just deconstructing all the way and trying to figure out. And some people can't survive without God.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good question. Like, how do you forgive God? Is that the question?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I'm curious if you guys have, De'Anna, like, for instance, have you run into anybody who's had that sort of anger with God?
Yes. I think that their anger with God is them they're not being able to process that trauma yet. Because whatever has happened in their life experience has been so huge, so heavy that they're blaming God, but they're still holding all that emotion. They're still holding the trauma. And so they're just in their journey, and so I look for small baby steps of, like, what's that next thing that can help that person. And I'm always looking for, either in that situation, like, some sense of relief, just so they can have more sense of clarity and where they're going with their life and feel productive. Otherwise, they're going to be stuck for a while. And then the next thing is, I would never push someone to forgive or to be like, hey, let's take on this entire animal of all of this emotion you have all at once. It's like, what's that next little piece that they can really kind of get their head around and make some movement. I think that healing naturally occurs when people create that movement for themselves. Mm-hmm. And you don't always have to go to a therapist to be healed, or, you don't need to smoke peyote. And I love that people do all those things. I think it's fun. And I think that people find a lot of benefit from it. But at the same time, I think healing is a natural part of our life experience as well. I didn't always call it healing until I've had clients that say, you healed me. And I was like, I never claimed to be a healer. Those are interesting words. But we heal ourselves. And it's part of being human, is that we have an option to do so. And if you're not using that emotion purposefully, then find a way to heal. And it happens when you ask for it and when you live in that state of possibility. But to blame it all on God, and then leave something that maybe meant something to you. I mean, the only reason you'd blame it on God is that if you were once a believer in God. So you're willing, out of that anger and that distress, to completely abandon something that once meant something to you. Wow, that's a spiritual journey that you're on.
That's hard. Well, I love one of the things that I love about you so much, because we've done some hypnosis work together. And just what you said there was like, instead of thinking, I've got to forgive God, right? Or forgive this big thing, that you take small measurable steps towards healing. And it can be small things. And then eventually they kind of stack up. And now you have a longer list of things that you've healed, and your life is actually changing because of it. So this is what I love about you, is just these real, practical, measurable ways towards something kind of much bigger.
Yeah. And I think it's so individual. I try to meet people where they're at, and I'm a chameleon in here. I'll have people that come in that are highly spiritual people. And so when I learn about them, I know that I need to approach it that way then. My hypnosis needs to be shifted to approach it in the way that is something they resonate with. If there's somebody that is, really more masculine and they're so goal oriented, then I know that I need to frame it that way. Right. So I try to meet people where they're at with that. It's funny. I'm thinking about a client that I knew was very much in the Jewish community, prominent in the Jewish community. And when he signed up for sessions with me, I made the assumption that he would want some of that like magic of being Jewish in his session. And after this, it was a beautiful session. But when it was over, he was like, he had more sessions to go. And he was like, hey, just so you know for next time, like, you don't need to mention anything about being Jewish. It's like, okay. So I don't always get it right.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting at the end of this book, the You Don't Need to Forgive book, she talked about how each individual person's religious belief also might have framework around forgiveness, how it is required in their faith, and whether, because this book was written for other therapists and the public, but each time she's speaking to somebody who is an advocate of forgiveness, and also to therapists who need to reframe that, and how she went through this whole, if you're Jewish, this is how the Jewish people see forgiveness. This is how Christianity sees forgiveness. This is how Buddhism, Hinduism.
I always ask. Yeah,
it's really fascinating. So it does matter. Like one's individual belief structure does play a huge part in what is required by their doctrine, or just, and that's why, like, we're talking about it from an outside perspective, just from a lay person's, like, as a person who has been harmed, why do I need to forgive? And so I find all of this to be relevant and very fascinating. But I want to, before we lose this opportunity, I want to go back and just say something like, Vanessa and I, every time we're on this podcast, we're like, that one word could make an entire new episode. And the word you said, De'Anna, at the beginning was choice. People don't realize that they have a choice. And I think that's the biggest constrictor in people's lives, is that they think they're just zombies going through like a sort of predestined existence, where they just have to get up and go to work and eat food and pay their bills. And, and they don't realize that every single thing they do, whether they choose to get out of bed that day, whether they actually go to that job, whether they want to stay at that job at the end of the day, it's all really their choice. And I think that's an extremely freeing thing for healing. If we're talking about healing, is like to recognize our choice in all of it.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Mm-hmm. It's an option.
Mm-hmm. It's an option. Well, options.
Well, and we can, and as what we say is, my big thing is, we can disagree at any point with anything that's happening. I can disagree with what I'm doing, what you're doing, like whatever. Which is to say, I can choose something different. We can all choose something different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Well, and we can choose like whatever. I mean, I really think this idea of forgiveness is fascinating, because it seems like the association is what makes it kind of a terrible concept. But is there another way to look at it? And yeah, I don't want to just like, when the Bible, doesn't Jesus say something like turn the other cheek? I forget the context of it, but like when something bad is happening.
There are some things that are worthy of that, and there are some that are not. And
yeah,
we don't. And the problem that I have with it is how it's been made into this very like, you're a godly person, you're gracious, you're kind, you're forgiving, and it's like, no, I don't think I need to be those things. I need to be a person who changes the world so that we can protect our children. Like, let's figure out what's actually important. And I guess did we ever answer, like I asked you, is it just like that? Is it magic? So I forgive somebody and then you're relieved of it? Like, even if I did say I forgive somebody, that doesn't change anything. So why would I do that? Nothing will change when I do that. Releasing.
To me, forgiveness is like almost like a real forgiveness. To me, feels like a nervous system reset. Like my nervous system isn't holding on to something for whatever reason. I was able to, like, if it's not sticky, I could just let it go.
I would agree with that.
It didn't lock in. So when I say it's easy, it's not a mental concept. I think sometimes forgiveness is a physiological concept. It's something in my system that's just like, it's whatever, out. It didn't lock in.
I always ask people, where are you holding that? And I ask them while they're in hypnosis, because if you asked them cognitively, they'd be like, what? In my head, of course. But I've had people say they hold it in their left ear, and it's like a giant tunnel that goes all the way. It never ends. It's a black hole in my left ear. It goes all the way down. And it's like the never-ending pit of whatever that is, of loneliness or sadness or whatever. Or I have somebody that the other day said, it's fear and it's red and it's spiraling around me. And I said, oh, can you move it? Like, just being curious, can you move it? Because they tend to think that, okay, that thing is spiraling around me, I'm stuck in it. Oh, can you move it? Can you put it over there? So I would say forgiveness probably does live in the body. We just have to throw out the word, you guys. We just got to come up with a new word.
Well, this is why I love long form. Yes. Well, this is why I'm a huge proponent. Like when I teach my classes, one of the things I talk about are what are these third level words you're using, or tertiary words when I'm really nerdy, and what is the longest form of that word. So I make people sit and write whatever authentic means to them when they're saying it. What are they actually like tuning into in their body? What's the whole thing? And so I think that would be kind of a fun exercise for anybody who's joining us today, or for everyone who is, and anybody who listens to us in perpetuity. Like, if you hate this word and you don't connect with it, write all the things down in long form that it makes you feel, and then come up with a new word, or go, if you love the word forgiveness, long form it so that when you're talking about it, like I'm going to literally do this tonight, right when we are done today, I'm going to sit here and write.
Articulate it differently. Yeah.
Yeah. So long form it. It means get a pen, not on your laptop, get a piece of paper, and use your body and your nervous system to write out the experience of forgiveness, non-forgiveness, whatever it is, so that it can move through you and become something useful and helpful. Because otherwise, even hating the word becomes a block, and loving the word, like maybe I've always been like, forgiveness, but Vilas, you fire me up. I mean, I'm sitting here like, do I actually forgive anybody? What's happening? Did I just lay down and die and be like, fine, this happened. Okay, whatever. Like, is that what I did? So
no, I know.
You challenged me too. I appreciate it. You challenged me too, because I was sitting here thinking about a context that I stopped thinking about for years and years. It was a sexual assault from when I was 15 years old. And the way that happened, it was my sister's boyfriend, and she didn't know ever that it happened until about 8 years ago. I'm 57 years old. So I held that in for all those years and never told her that had happened. And it happened while she was sleeping in the other room in her apartment. And I was spending the night at her house. And so I did all the work on myself to not have reactions, physical reactions to that experience, PTSD. But right now I'm asking myself to kind of put myself in front of him and think about, if he was to walk in the door, what would I do? And what comes to me first is based on who I am now, because I'm not that 15-year-old girl that would say, fuck you. That is how I was then. Now I would go, why did you need to do that? What is it about you that makes you want to do that? And I think it's because now I've become a person who is really curious about people. I'm really curious about human behavior. And so I think I would ask why. So I'd have two entirely different responses of what that looks like. And forgiveness, I don't think, it doesn't even play a part in any of that.
Right.
But it leads me to like a human understanding. I want to know why he did that. And of course, this first answer wouldn't be the answer, right? I don't want to dig down deeper if I actually got
chair and let me put you under and get this out of you.
But it's interesting. I mean, these scenarios wouldn't really be happening, right? When they happen, it's like, we're going to write a book about it because it's such a unique, rare moment. Like these people that the grandfather and the father together that formed this union and created all this change. These things don't happen for the majority of people. And so reframing what forgiveness actually is, I think, is just the beautiful choice and invitation here. And you're asking then, Vanessa, if I'm hearing you clearly, you're challenging people to really understand it better, what it means
to them.
What it means. Mm-hmm.
To them individually, not as a blanket statement.
Yeah.
Not a religious statement, not a what you think anybody, and you can just write, I hate it and don't agree. That's fine too. But also what is it that you hate about it? So flush out the word individually. I think so much of evolution and growth doesn't come, like we're inspiring each other and to think differently right now, but we're not absorbing and adopting just to be compliant. We're all three very different and have very different voices. And I think that, look at us, we coexist. We're inspiring and affecting each other in a positive way. And I'd love for all of you listening to kind of walk away with something productive, which is to say, if you don't agree with forgiveness, it's fine. If you do, it's fine. But what is it that forgiveness, the word and the action, trigger in you, just so that you have a deeper understanding of it, and maybe some movement and growth around an area that seems unforgivable. I'm not saying forgive it. I'm just saying let it inspire and activate something so that if you do feel stuck, that can help you just move through it. And I'm never saying accept it or just be like, okay, whatever. It's just a deeper understanding of what it is. And it'll just make your conversation so much more rich, like this one. It's like, this is going to be like one of our favorites.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, this was a long time coming because we've talked about this before, that this word has a lot of loaded meaning and expectation. And I think it's the expectation of it that bothers me the most. It's like, stop expecting more of someone who has already experienced harm. Like, stop expecting just a little bit more from them. Can you just forgive? Can you just, and the part where we're not honoring enough, we're not honoring survivors, we're not honoring children. But the thing we do all, if you play 20 questions and you find yourself trying to associate words with survivor, you will get to forgiveness before you get to, let's fucking burn down the patriarchy and stop raping women and children. Okay.
Yeah, how about that?
Come later. But that's what I'm saying. Like we need to refocus our energy on how do we change this world and how do we make it a better place so that we can, expectations are premeditated resentments, Vilas. Thank you very much.
That is powerful. Yeah.
That's right.
Wow, I love that. Something just came to mind right now where this is going to be, we don't have to go there completely because it's a whole nother thing. But let's just take African American community, right? You would never say, "Hey, forgive people who enslaved you." We would never. I would literally never say, "Go forgive all these."
There are people that are asking this, and this is my problem.
Well, this is where I completely agree with you. I would say that there's not a single chance that I would ever ask that.
There's a whole bunch of white supremacists out there that think that Black people should just let it go, just forgive and forget, and that was in the past, and get over it. And that's the part where I'm like, but we haven't fixed it yet.
Right. And I would say that
forgiveness is not possible without repair.
Right. So that's what brings me to kind of like what would actually repair this, because to your point, there are some situations where that's not an appropriate thing. Like there's something else that needs to happen. And forgiveness is the choice of a community. That's not something that there's something else
that it happened, first of all. Yeah. I mean, this is what we've been trying to do. And we've made some headway with acknowledging that happens, and now it's being taken away and taken down, and that's fucked up. Am I allowed to say that? So I just said the F word in a negative way.
Oh, I was just cheering you on.
In a positive way.
My bad association is rubbing off on you.
Oh my God, you're human. Ah!
I think it is a travesty to just act like it didn't happen and we're all going to move on and you just get over it. I don't think that's actually even true letting go. I love letting go. I have found it to be an incredibly useful term in my life and a practice because I could get angry about lots of things that I stay angry about that are not productive. It's not productive for me to be angry, but so letting go is a choice. But that something like that, that is at scale. That affects millions and millions of hearts and minds and future ways of behavior. So when something's at scale, like we need to fight for it.
We do. And I love that this is where we have a lot of synergy, right? In agreement is that there's something to let go is a choice of someone when they heal. It's a choice. I couldn't let go of the things that happened to me for a long time. Mm-hmm. I had to, that was something that was beautiful.
It happens after.
It happens after. So to force, let it go, get over it, whatever, that's completely on an individual once they go through their process. And that process might take a few generations, but we have to get to the root. We have to your point, we have to acknowledge and validate and get curious about it instead of being such chicken shits that we're not willing to ask questions like, what is needed here? How do we do this on a large scale? How does the world heal from something as terrible as that experience? And some of the stuff I've heard last week about what happened during the slave years was so horrendous and despicable. I've never heard it, and freaked me out. And I thought, man, I didn't do that. I would never have done that. I don't think, I hope. But holy shit, we have a lot of work to do together to repair this. And I don't know where to start. But I think it's partly admitting, we don't actually know where to start. But that's maybe the beginning. And to actually actively take steps to just maybe be curious and open a conversation instead of this stupid, that's where I would say it's really stupid to just be let it go. That's a horrible, horrible invalidation of what happened.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we need to honor Indigenous people in this country and the entire Black population that is here, not necessarily by their choice, and how we have not honored them.
Yeah.
And we're rolling back the small things that we used to do to at least create a space. And now all of that is being rolled back. And so, it's devastating.
So these are the layers and complexities of forgiveness. So if anybody's on that and you're just kind of like, just start with like, what does it mean to you? And what does it trigger in you? Go long form on it, flush it out, write 10 pages about it, write 100 pages about it. But don't stop at like, I hate it, it doesn't work. Like you do feel a lot. And for us to heal from these high control situations where there's a lot of healing that needs to take place and a lot of like, whatever you need to do it, and that just takes time. And so I think when we stop at like, I just disagree and don't continue, we don't get to the next level. So we're here to, continue conversing about it. And if anybody wants to connect with De'Anna, she's just here in Del Mar, California. And if you're interested in working with her, we'll share the link for her, her work. Also,
when you repost this, add her contact.
Yeah. And if you have a forgiveness like activation or meditation or whatever you call it, De'Anna, I don't know if you have one. Do you have one?
I do. I have a couple different ones.
Yeah. So just send us all the stuff so we can share that and support you. And
I appreciate that.
And follow her on all the things. She's at De'Anna Nunez everywhere.
De'Anna Nunez.
What did you just say? Sorry, I cut you off.
I just appreciate the opportunity of being a bridge, for other people. And I think it takes a lot of courage to confront these emotions inside yourself and to confront the circumstances in your life. Many people just going to avoid and try to move forward because life feels like too much. And they're like, I can't take on everybody else's problems, much less I got my own, right? And so I think the importance of having that sense of courage of really creating what your own well-being looks like is very important. I appreciate that you two want to do that in the world and that you're having these conversations. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. And just, thank you both. You have freaking set us on fire here. And De'Anna, you've given us so much food for thought or fruit for thought. Wink, wink. So thank you for that. I actually if you guys don't mind, I love what Hynpnotist just wrote. And I just want to just throw this out there and just give us your last final thoughts on this. And then we'll close up for the day. But Hynpnotist said something really interesting. She said, if I resist the expectation of others that I should forgive, because I think the offender is the one who should ask for my forgiveness, then I must still be holding on to feelings of resentment and anger. Let's just give a quick something like feedback to her or perspective.
Well, that's an expectation that you would have on them. So ignore the expectations of others and don't have any expectations on others, because it's not fair for you to have, like Cole said, expectations are premeditated resentments, because you can't have an expectation of somebody else to do something. You can reasonably have expectations, but if you don't share them, hey, if I'm not going to forgive you unless you ask for forgiveness, also that just seems weird and creepy.
Like unnecessary pressure.
So much pressure.
But I think we've kind of parsed out here that it's not about them. Let them be a separate matter. If somebody comes to you and asks for forgiveness, that's a different story. But for your own self, I think the question is, how do you want to handle that? That's really, like De'Anna says, like, who do you want to be? Like, I choose to pretend, whether it lives inside me or not, that this is a complete non-entity. These things very much happened. It's a reality in my life. And what I'm doing with the damage that they made is I'm trying to alchemize my pain to be something better for someone else. And I'm not going to spend time in that going, oh, this person caused me harm, and I'm going to send out a nice little butterfly with some forgiveness, right? Right. So, I guess my point is more like, are you holding resentment and anger? That's the only thing you have to worry about. Like if somebody else is going to ask you for forgiveness, that's on them. That, it's about how are you feeling about it and what do you want to do with it?
What I would do, just as a quick exercise, is some productive journalings. I would open a book and I would write out all of that. If you have a hint of there's anger and resentment, write it out and write what you feel. Not write it out in form and like, oh, I am angry. No, like, fuck you. Write it out. Write what you're actually feeling. Let your body express. Let your mind let go. Let your imagination express, even if it's in metaphor. It feels like I can't move on. It feels like a monkey on my shoulders. Whatever it is, write out. People tend to talk in metaphor. So honor your metaphors and let it express itself. Write it out. Then once you feel done, because you will notice if you actually let yourself feel your feelings, they will be volatile at first and then they'll go, they sort of settle, right? And then you'll be at a new place of clarity and you can go, okay, and who do I want to be now? That's when you ask yourself that question.
After
and
you do that
to be productive. And then you can move forward with maybe some lighter emotions. Like, I want to be full of joy. I want to help others that have been in this situation. That's very purposeful. Who knows what you'll do with it, but it will be something productive versus holding that resentment or anger or even wondering if you are. So there's something actionable. Yeah.
There's a coaching. So I did a lot of this letting go, fully feeling coaching a long time ago. I went through a program called Awakening Coaching. And one of the things that we would do, and this is when like I could no longer go on stage and play those big angry characters for about a year after this because I got rid of a lot of my anger. But it's basically you take your feelings to like level 10. That I hate you, I want to kill you, I want to punch you in the face, I'm so sad, like whatever it is, those really icky human things that we try to avoid, there's no avoiding. You feel it. Level 10, you say it out loud and you bring it up and up and up and up and up, and then we release, and it's a whole process. And at the end of it, we also balance out the opposite of it, which is I hate this one person, but now I love you. And you say, I love you, I love you, I love you. And you bring that up to a 10. And so you kind of begin to feel all the different sides. And then the question at the end of that is, what's possible now? And it's a really powerful question because there is something on the other side of this. But the only way you get there genuinely, authentically, is to feel all the ugly, gross human emotions, all the things we're trying to
let yourself.
100%. Yeah.
And I just tell people too, like you're not journaling to save this so that you can read it later and remember how angry or pissed off or whatever or resentful you are. Burn the shit. Burn it in the fireplace after you're done. Or campfire.
Can I just share an inappropriate joke to end this hilarity? So the therapist says to me, I need you to write down all of your thoughts and feelings about your ex and then burn them. So then I said, what am I going to do with the papers that I wrote? Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you all so much for being with us today. This was really fun.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, De'Anna.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks,
This
De'Anna.
is great.
Yeah.
All
and
right.
lots. Always.
We'll do it again. Peace and love.
Nice.
See you next week.
Yep. We'll see you all next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.